Hello, everyone. It's me again. Lovely to see you all again here on my YouTube Live, Revolution 9. Um, I am Maria Esposito. I am pretty much the owner of Revolution 9. We are a holistic company that focuses on your mind, emotional, spiritual growth, and health and well-being. Um, so more or less, I use the modalities of hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, astronumerology, and um, and my gifts of psychic intuitiveness and empathy. So, combining all of these different things, I love serving people in a way of just creating release, stress management, trauma release, or for even people that just want to come in and uh, just relax. I like to look at the types of therapies. Well, I'm not a therapist, so I'm just making that very clear. But the types of holistic therapies that I do, I like to look at it as, say, when you're focusing on your physical health and you're going in and you are focusing on your physical body. You go to a massage therapist to massage your body to release tension, and for whatever reasons, aches, pains, and loosen things up, right? So I like to look at as the type of work that I do is that I do the exact same thing, but I do that for my clients' minds in the space of mental and emotional massages. So I guess you could say that would be like probably the most simplistic way. And I do that in so many different ways, and everything is custom to your needs. So, anyways, but that's not why I'm here. I am here today to discuss transformation. So I had the intention to do another video, which was completely unrelated to transformation. But when I was in my space this morning in meditation, connecting with my spirits of my business, and and they basically say you just need to talk. You just need to go on and discuss, talk about transformation. And so I'm like, okay, well, I think for the most part, people understand and could relate and understand what transformation is. But you know what? It was funny because a good friend of mine and I were discussing transformation yesterday, and that's where we both 100% agreed that transformation, as beautiful a word it is, and how when you get to that light at the end of the tunnel, transformation is truly beautiful. But what does that actually look like when you're going through transformational changes? So I wanted to come on here and and let's discuss. So again, I don't really know if you have any questions. You could post in the comments after this has been released and uploaded, or been posted to YouTube. And I'll also be sharing this to my various social medias. So for anyone watching this afterwards and, would like to comment or have any questions, by all means. I love interacting online. I'm a more of an in-person kind of person, hence being in this space and eventually getting back into doing various form of holistic retreats. Stay tuned. In person, these will not be online. However, just getting into the ropes of learning and interacting and connecting with people online, because this is the world we live in today. So transformation. So I actually wanted to start out by discussing. So, and what came to mind about the word transformation is I to I'm giving this is just all perspective and what I how I see transformation and what that truly does look like in our everyday lives. In my opinion, I think it's actually quite depending on the type of transformation one is going through. I think it could be kind of painful sometimes. And you know what? It's interesting because I want to use this analogy, you know, because it kind of reminds me of this analogy of when you think of um, a caterpillar and how it transforms into a butterfly. My beautiful life partner and I watch David Attenborough, and he's phenomenal. He has such a not only a hypnotic voice and completely what I'm listening to him trance out, but he's so knowledgeable in his craft of understanding, the mammal species and learning about other creatures other than you know human species, and his space is animals and whatnot, nature. So he had I was watching and what we were watching his one episode, which was all about insects, and it was interesting to see the and go through and understand the transition from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And think about it, when you see a caterpillar, they're such vulnerable insects. They have this whole massive world, and there's this tiny little thing, and they live in a space of being at risk, and of being eaten, being attacked, and their survival is so crucial for their evolution. So, and in this one episode, it was interesting, so interesting about this one particular species, which was a little bit different than your regular transformative butterfly, like caterpillar to butterfly story. And it was interesting because this particular caterpillar, what it would do and what its survival mechanism was that it would kind of go in a space of where there's a lot of ants. And what it would do, it would create this really interesting noise that mimics the queen of an ant colony. And what it would do is that it would make this caterpillar would make this noise until it gets to the point where the ant accepts this caterpillar as its queen and will bring it back to the colony. So, keeping in mind that ants are carnivores, so they actually feed on caterpillars and other insects. So, bringing this one caterpillar back into the colony of thousands of other ants, it's taking a huge risk that it'll be eaten alive. But and what happens is that once it actually goes and the ant colony accepts it as their queen, eventually what it does is that it actually this caterpillar will feed off of the larva of and the baby ants and the eggs, and that's how it survives. Then once it pretty much cleans out all of the eggs and all of the larvae from the ants, it cocoons itself, and I think he said within a year, it transformed to this very rare butterfly. So, so thinking of that and use that as an analogy, I would say that us as human species, we actually go through that same, that the same kind of process. To me, transformation is you go through contrast. It could bring in a lot of obstacles. It is at times very stressful. It could be painful. I mean, I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure everybody has their own ways of what does that look like, in our everyday lives. So for me, um, I find the process, it's I have a I have a mindset of looking at things and really being in a state of curiosity. Curiosity is probably a state that most adults end up losing in their adulthood. And, with me going through my own breakthrough journey in becoming a trainer in this space and understanding mind health and emotional health, has allowed me to truly embrace and regain that curiosity. Because as a child, I was a very curious child, and my mother and siblings could probably attest to that as well. I was always getting into things. I was always curious. I always wanted to do things. I was an action oriented child. Again, life kind of kicks us in the ass sometimes, and for a lot of people, we lose that curiosity and sometimes live in a state of survival, just getting by, of just let me focus on the day to day, surviving, moving forward, getting things done, and having a tiny bit of time for self. If people actually invest and dedicate that time to their health and well-being, which I would say for the most part, if especially if for the most part, a lot of people don't. And I think that, for myself, going back to that state of curiosity, you know, um, I find that especially over the past few years, I've gone through a lot of transformation, a lot of changes. And, I was discussing this with my life partner, and I said to him, actually not my life partner. So I was discussing this with my good friend, and I was looking at my timeline, and I said, for literally the past 4 years, I've gone through so many different changes in my internal life, but even more so in my external life, that that no wonder why now, you know, dealing with different things and how that kind of stress has an impact on our physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual bodies. You know, most people like to focus on their physical. However, we also have our etheric bodies, we have our emotional bodies, we have our psychological or mental bodies, and we have our spiritual bodies, which for a good chunk, a lot of people don't attend to. And if anything, in my opinion and my understanding of being in this space, your mental, emotional, spiritual bodies are probably the more crucial than the physical, because if we aren't attending to those different levels, especially when we're going through the journey of transformation and dealing with, you know, that kind of change, it will always have a direct impact, not only on those etheric bodies, but it will also have an impact eventually. The manifestations will happen at the physical level. So it's interesting that and it's funny because sometimes when we are attuned to our mind and we have that alignment with our mind, body, emotional, spiritual bodies, and we have that connection, there's even times where sometimes we're unaware of. And it's not until, say, we go to the doctor, to for whatever reason, or we go to our, in my case, I work with my natural path on various things, and it was interesting because it's sometimes you might be going for one thing, but then really there's even a more pressing issue elsewhere that you may not even be consciously aware of, and it's been interesting because the amount of transformation that I've been dealing with for the past 4+ years. I'm starting to see the effects of not only of how this has allowed me to transform and has pushed me to, for example, push me to here to align with my life's purpose and how I'm meant to serve, and in a service, humanitarian, group consciousness kind of way, but it's pushed, and yes, there's been resistance on my part. And sometimes, and that's the thing, when we're going through this journey of transformation, sometimes we need to just release that resistance and surrender to the process, surrender to the journey. Now, I'm going to say that's something that I'm still learning, and I don't think we ever really stopped learning that. We're human. We're here to experience obstacles. We're here to experience contrast because it's those times that creates the transformation and the evolution of our souls and the evolution of ourselves so we could move forward and create that external change, right? So so transformation is the journey itself could be, I don't want to say difficult. I think things, in my opinion, things become difficult when we put up resistance. And I think, in my belief system, my knowing from my own personal experience, is, we're the ones that prevent us from moving forward. We're the ones that are actually preventing us from living the life that we truly desire and the life of what we're meant to be in alignment with. It's only us. There's nobody external to us. There's nothing, nobody, anything. So, you know, taking full accountability and being in a space of cause, instead of effect, which would be victim state, to put simply, it's just being in that space of taking full accountability and saying, I've created this. And you know what? And even saying that and celebrating the accomplishments and saying, I created that, and give yourself that love and that appreciation and that excitement and accept that for yourself, as well as, the shadow sides of who we are, which are the lower vibrational aspects of us, which, in our space is called, I refer to it as the shadow sides of us, you know and you can't have one without the other. So being in a space of acceptance leads to that transformation. So I love to look at this as, so I'm using myself as an example. So it's funny because going back to saying that sometimes, and this is the brilliance of our human minds. Not only is our mind and our conscious. And for those of you who want to understand our different parts of our mind, subconscious, conscious, and unconscious, my previous video discusses. I don't go into too much detail, but it really gives you a great foundation on understanding our minds. And our minds are vibrational. It's a vibrational aspect of who we are, and it's part of us as human beings, but the power within our own minds and taking care of of our mind health, our emotional health, and again, that spiritual health, whether you're spiritual or not, you could be religious. I'm just using labels for communication purposes, but, whether you believe of a higher self, a higher source, God being within you, or God within um, a religious form, it's all, what it all boils down to me is all the same. They're just labels for describing, a certain belief system that we have, to in order for us to communicate effectively. So going back to that, and understanding, for myself, sometimes we could be going through this transformational journey and having a hard time with it. We all, to varying degrees, resist change. I think change is uncomfortable, and that's okay. Change is not supposed to be comfortable, because if change was actually comfortable, then you're actually not transforming. It's meant for us to embrace the contrast and be able to move forward in a space in having that internal trust, that that trust in the journey, that trust in the process to move forward, towards that the light at the end of the tunnel, which is that transformation. Or in other words, using the butterfly caterpillar analogy, that beautiful butterfly, you know, it goes through this whole transition, and it manifests into this beautiful, beautiful exotic form, as we know, as a butterfly. And that's exactly what transformation for us humans look like. And we just have to find that trust within ourselves and our trust within our spirit guides and our spiritual team, trust within us, and that everything is happening for us. It's never happening to us. And embracing that, yeah, sometimes we're kicking and screaming, yes, and that's okay. And that's okay. The thing is, if you're living in that state of kicking and screaming and resistance, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. And sometimes you just need to surrender to the process and just say, okay, let's do this. And easier said than done, right? So yeah, and so yeah, going back to the conscious, sometimes we're conscious, sometimes we're unconscious. It was interesting because last week I had an appointment with my naturopath, and and I went to him for a certain reason several months ago, and I this was my follow up, and it turned out that different things popped up, and it actually shocked me in the sense where I was like, eh, you know, and it had to do with various forms of uh, internal things that were going on, and 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 my body not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So that's usually what happens, when you're in different states of that transformation. Are you effectively releasing those energies? Are you decompressing at a mind emotional level? Are you letting go of your traumas from the past? And what does that look like? And for the most part, sometimes people could say, yes, I could feel this. I know that I'm holding on to something. But for the most part, and I'll tell you, guarantee that for the work that I do, when people come in, if they can name the problem, that ain't it. There's a deeper rooted cause to that problem that they're coming to see me for. And it was funny. So with my naturopath, he's like, are you dealing with a little bit of stress? And I'm like, yeah. Like I'm going through some transformational changes here. So yes, some of those have been contributing to a little bit of stress. And however, and in my mind, in my conscious mind, I was like, but I'm fully aware. However, I've been doing the steps and the things that to the best of my ability I know to, in terms of mind, spirit, mind, and emotional health, that for me comes first before the physical aspect for me. And I live what I preach. So anything that I suggest to my clients, if it's not something that I've done myself, I'm not going to recommend it. So for the most part, and I've tried so many different things in under the moon. So when my doctor gave me this news, I'm like, yes. However, the news that he gave me that I was completely unaware of was that my body wasn't essentially my parasympathetic system wasn't working and doing what it should be doing to decrease the cortisol levels that is created when you really when you're stressed. The body releases this chemical called cortisol, and your parasympathetic system is the system that actually helps to combat the stress on the body. So needless to say, I was not aware of that. I'm like, okay, so what do we do about this? So and my point to sharing this story with you is that you know, yes, I've been going through some transformational changes, but sometimes we are in when you have that keen awareness and that alignment with your mind, body, soul connection, you're aware of some elements, but I guarantee you there are things that we hold on to unconsciously because that, again, going back to my video, the unconscious mind is there to, it represses information and it's there to preserve the body. That's the prime directive. So when we are holding on to various events, contrasting experiences through this transformational journey, for the most part, we are repressing at an unconscious level a lot of what we are experiencing. And the whole purpose of our unconscious doing that is to protect our body, plain and simple. That's how simple it is. So, and then over time, when it's safe, or when we've done the self work and the release, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, whatever the need is, and we've been able to do that work, eventually the unconscious will start releasing. We'll start like an onion, we'll start peeling off those layers, and you'll be able to release those emotions, release those events that have occurred. And ideally, what it is that we're holding on to at an unconscious level, and what is creating these physical manifestations of dis-ease, which is disassociated, and it's your body being disassociated from ease, dis-ease. That's how I look at that. So the body having the chance to truly decompress. Then eventually, when it's safe to do so, the unconscious will release those emotions from those events, and they'll show up in different ways in our life. But that's just the way, the mechanism of how our unconscious works. And eventually, when you're doing the self work and you're giving and you're investing in your health and well being to be able to work and release at those unconscious, subconscious levels, then eventually you're letting go of those emotions that are attached to those life transformational events. So, anyways, yeah, so it was interesting when he gave that. I'm like, okay, so I guess a little bit more work to have to do. And I think for me, it was, it's been the transformational journey that has brought me to here, to be here with you and discussing this, you has definitely created some things in my life. And again, so, and I guess it's time to now, you know, for me, it's up leveling to that next level of, heightening my own self hypnosis. So I use self hypnosis all the time for a lot of different things. I'm actually in a state of trance right now. And I use hypnosis, religiously in my day to day life because it actually allows me to um, be in a state to be able to maneuver in a very keen focused state. So for me, being here with you, um, and working with clients day to day, dealing with kids, um, hypnotherapy has been a lifesaver for me. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to up level my doses of hypnosis and to even just now learn how to continue to surrender. And I think if I'm coming to you and you're listening to this, I'm assuming that, um, in my opinion, I think surrender, surrendering to the process, surrendering to what could be, is truly a big part of of how we could lessen the effects of the transformational journey and lessen the impacts on our physical, mental, emotional health, and just finding and fully being aligned to trusting in the process that everything is happening for us, not to us. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for those of you that have taken the time to watch this video. I love receiving feedback and comments. And by all means, for those of you that just want to send me direct messages, I love receiving them. If you're a person that doesn't want to post comments on the videos, that's great. Just direct message me as you have been. So and I'm here to answer any questions that you have, and I look forward to our next video. Sending you all a bunch of love and light. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.